As we have mentioned, it is election night in Arizona. Polls closed about 27 minutes ago in the Republican primary, and we're still waiting to learn who voters will choose to take on Democratic Governor Katie Hobbs this November. It'll be one of the country's most closely watched governor's races. MS Now has not yet projected a winner, but while the Republican nominee remains undecided, the stakes of the general election are already coming into focus. Since the 2020 election, Arizona has become a focal point in the fight over election denial and those false claims of widespread voter fraud. And Governor Hobbs knows that fight better than almost anybody, because before she was elected governor in 2022, Katie Hobbs served as Arizona's Secretary of State. And Katie Hobbs had to defend Arizona's election system against election deniers like Donald Trump and some of his allies, who repeatedly challenged Arizona's certified 2020 election results. Among them was one of the Republicans hoping to win tonight's primary to take on Governor Hobbs, Congressman Andy Biggs, who voted to object to Arizona's electoral votes following the January 6th Capitol attack and has continued to question the legitimacy of that 2020 election. Joining us now is Arizona Governor Katie Hobbs. She is running for re-election this year. Governor, it's good to see you.
Good to be here. Thanks.
Thanks. What's your message for Arizona voters tonight?
Look, there is a lot at stake in this election. It's a choice between Arizona first leadership and Washington-style chaos. And my very likely opponent after tonight is going to be Andy Biggs, who, as you've already described, is an election denier, who not only is an ally of Trump and refuses to acknowledge the results of the 2020 election, but he went so far as to help plan January 6th. He also helped orchestrate the fake elector scheme that went on here in Arizona. He has sought a presidential pardon for his role and ultimately defied a congressional subpoena. Now, here is what that means. Arizona is one of 7 swing states that will decide the presidential election. And as you described, in 2020, we had a free and fair election because as Secretary of State, I defended the will of the voters. If Andy Biggs is governor, Arizona is the first swing state with an election denier in charge. And the time to stop that is not 2028. It is right now. And folks can help me do that by going to katiehobbs.org.
You have mentioned Andy Biggs' role in that 2020 election denialism. We have not yet made a projection here at MS Now, but as soon as we do, we're going to bring it to our viewers. And I want to ask in that vein that, the president continues to make these false claims. The speech last Thursday was like a blast from the past about the 2020 election, despite there being no evidence at all of widespread voter fraud. 6 years later, how does that continue to affect voters in Arizona and the machinery of democracy in Arizona?
Well, look, there continue to be actors who are trying to sow doubt in the integrity of our elections. But I know that elections in Arizona are secure and they are run by dedicated professionals who know what they're doing. And I have confidence in our elections. I'm going to do everything I can as governor to make sure that every eligible Arizonan can participate. And we're watching potential threats or things that might happen from great federal overreach and interference. But Arizonans are ready to move on from this. They're certainly not thinking about the 2020 election. They're thinking about the fact that Washington's cost hiking agenda is making everything cost more: housing, groceries, gas, healthcare. And my likely opponent has championed this agenda, continues to double down on it. And I don't think Arizonans can trust him to fix the problems that he caused.
Governor, Arizonans they're definitely ready to move on. I've talked to so many of them and spent some time there myself this year. But election workers still find themselves, I think, in the crosshairs because not only did they face these threats, you face these threats after the 2020 election, the rhetoric around the denial continues to ramp up. Are you concerned? You must be, about their safety heading into the midterm elections?
Sure. We are working to activate all of our, emergency responders. We've done tabletop exercises. We're going to make sure we're doing everything we can, working with election officials at the state and county levels to ensure the safety of everyone involved in our elections. And I applaud the people who step up every single election cycle to volunteer at the polling places to make sure that our elections can happen. And there is, in America, we settle our differences at the ballot box, and we need people to step up and help ensure that that can happen. They should not be under threat. And it is a direct result of these election deniers who are causing that.
I believe that I've spent so much time on election lines and at polling places in my day-to-day job here. And I think that they are the most civic-minded, many of them volunteers in this country. And it's shameful the way that so many of them have been treated. Before I let you go, I do want to let you talk about affordability, because it is the top concern, if not one of the top, if not the top concern for so many American families, especially in Arizona. How have you worked to lower costs for Arizonans?
Well, this is something that's personal to me. When I talk about the struggles that Arizonans are facing, it's not just talk. I grew up in a family that often struggled, at times relied on food stamps to get by. And my husband and I also have our share of financial struggles. We lost a home to foreclosure, among other things. So I get it. I get what Arizonans are going through right now. And they want leaders who are focused on lowering those costs. I talked to a lot of folks who thought that Donald Trump was going to do that. And instead, my opponent, Andy Biggs, is in Congress voting to support the cost hiking agenda coming from Washington. I'm focused on how we can lower costs, lower people's utility bills, lower healthcare costs. I've lowered prescription drug costs. I've lowered childcare costs, and I know there's more to do. We are continuing to deliver on that for Arizonans so that they know that their leaders are putting them first.
Governor Katie Hobbs on a big primary night in Arizona. Thank you so much for being here. Appreciate it.
Thank you.